What's wrong? What is it?
The candle on the small cafe table had burned halfway down when Ethan finally stopped checking his phone. 10 minutes late. Then 20. Then 40. The waitress had already given him that soft, sympathetic look people reserve for someone being quietly humiliated in public. His blind date, someone his sister insisted was perfect, wasn't coming. Ethan let out a slow breath, forcing a small smile as he reached for his wallet. He told himself it didn't matter. He wasn't even sure why he agreed to this in the first place. Maybe loneliness had finally started to win. Maybe he was tired of coming home to silence after long shifts at the auto shop. Maybe he just wanted to believe that life could still surprise him in good ways. Instead, it surprised him in the worst. He stood up, ready to leave with whatever dignity he had left. When the cafe door slammed open so hard the bell above it shrieked. Two little girls burst inside. They couldn't have been more than 7 or 8, identical with messy brown curls and wide, terrified eyes. Their cheeks were streaked with tears. They looked around wildly, as if the entire world was a maze and they were being chased. Then they saw Ethan. And something in their faces changed, like a desperate decision being made in a heartbeat. They ran straight toward him. One grabbed his arms so tightly her small fingers trembled. The other screamed, voice cracking with panic. "Help! Please! They're hurting our mom." The entire cafe went silent. Ethan froze, heart slamming against his ribs. What are you talking about?" he stammered, crouching down. "Who's hurting your mom?" The girls spoke over each other in frantic bursts. "Two men. They're yelling. She told us to run. She's outside, she's scared." Ethan's instincts kicked in before his mind could catch up. He didn't know these children. He didn't know their mother. But fear like that wasn't something you could fake. He looked toward the door. "Show me," he said firmly. The twins nodded violently, already tugging him forward. Ethan didn't even think about the blind date anymore. He didn't think about the embarrassment or the quiet loneliness sitting at his table. All he could think about was those terrified eyes. Outside, rain had started to fall, turning the streetlights into blurred halos. The girls pulled him down the sidewalk, their sneakers splashing through puddles. They led him to a narrow alley beside the cafe. And there, Ethan's stomach dropped. A woman was backed against the brick wall, shielding her face with one arm. Her hair was damp, sticking to her cheeks. Her eyes were fierce but exhausted, like someone who had been fighting too long. Two men stood close, one gripping her wrist. "Come on," one of them sneered. "Don't make this harder." The woman's voice shook. "Let go of me." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Hey!" His shout echoed sharp through the alley. Both men turned. Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself between them and the woman. The twins pressed behind him, clinging to his jacket like he was a shield. "What's going on?" Ethan demanded. One man scoffed. "Mind your business." "It became my business when children ran into a cafe screaming for help," Ethan said, voice steady though his pulse was wild. "Let her go. Now." The second man's eyes narrowed. "You want to be a hero?" Ethan swallowed hard. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who fixed engines for a living. But he couldn't walk away. He glanced at the woman. Her lip was split. Her wrist looked red where the man held her. "No," Ethan said quietly. "I just want you to leave." For a moment, tension hung heavy. Then the sound of distant sirens cut through the rain. Someone must have called the police. The men cursed under their breath. "This isn't over," one muttered, shoving the woman slightly before stepping back. They disappeared into the shadows just as flashing lights appeared at the end of the street. The twins sobbed in relief, rushing past Ethan to their mother. Mom. The woman dropped to her knees, pulling them into her arms like she'd been holding her breath for hours. I'm okay, she whispered, though her voice broke. I'm okay. You did so good. You did exactly what I told you. Ethan stood there, rain soaking into his clothes, watching the scene with a strange ache in his chest. One officer approached, asking questions, but the woman could barely speak. When things finally calmed, she looked up at Ethan. Her eyes were striking, dark, full of gratitude and pain. I don't know who you are, she said, voice trembling, but you saved us. Ethan shook his head. I just happened to be there. That's not just, she replied softly. Most people would have looked away. The twins stared at Ethan like he was something magical. One sniffled. You came. Ethan crouched down again. Of course I came. The other twin wiped her face. Are you gonna leave now? The question hit him harder than he expected. Because it wasn't just a child asking. It was loneliness asking. It was fear asking. It was hope asking. Ethan looked at their mother. She hesitated, then said quietly, I don't have anyone. It's just us. Ethan felt something shift deep inside him. He didn't know why his blind date never came. But maybe he was never meant to meet her. Maybe he was meant to be here. I'm not leaving, he said gently. Not until I know you're safe. And for the first time that night, the woman's shoulders loosened, as if the world wasn't quite as heavy. Rain continued to fall, but something warmer than candlelight began to flicker between them. The beginning of something neither of them expected. Ethan thought the worst part of his night was being stood up. He was wrong. That was only the doorway. The real story had just begun. The next morning, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about them. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the twins bursting into the café, terror in their voices. He saw their mother pressed against the wall, fighting to stay strong. Her name, he learned, was Mara. The police had taken a report, but Mara admitted those men weren't strangers. They work for my ex, she confessed quietly as Ethan walked them home that night. He doesn't want custody. He just wants control. Ethan's jaw tightened. And he sends people to scare you? Mara gave a bitter laugh. He sends people to remind me I'm alone. That sentence haunted Ethan. Because he understood loneliness. Maybe not in the same way, but in the quiet, everyday way that emptiness creeps into your life until it feels normal. Mara lived in a small apartment above a closed bookstore. It was modest but filled with signs of love, children's drawings taped to the walls, stuffed animals on the couch, a tiny kitchen cluttered with mismatched mugs. The twins, Lily and Lucy, clung to Ethan as if he were already part of their world. When Mara offered him tea, her hands shook slightly. I'm sorry, she murmured. I'm not usually like this. Like what? Ethan asked. Needing someone. Ethan met her gaze. Everyone needs someone. Mara's eyes glistened, but she looked away quickly. Ethan left that night with a strange feeling in his chest. He didn't know these people. Yet somehow, he felt connected to them in a way he couldn't explain. Over the next week, Ethan found excuses to check in. Dropping off groceries. Fixing the broken lock on her door. Walking the twins to school when Mara had to meet with a lawyer. At first, Mara resisted. You don't have to do this, she told him one afternoon as they stood outside the school gates. I know, Ethan replied. Then why are you? Ethan paused. Because saying the truth felt too vulnerable. Because the truth was. I think, he said slowly, I needed to be reminded that I can still matter to someone. Mara's face softened. The twins ran out of school then, tackling Ethan in a hug. Mr. Ethan. Lily squealed. Lucy grinned. We told our teacher you're our hero. Ethan chuckled awkwardly. I'm not a hero. You are, Lucy insisted seriously. Heroes show up. Mara swallowed hard at that. That night, Mara finally told Ethan everything. How she'd once had a bright future, a career in design, dreams bigger than the city. How her ex had seemed charming at first. Then controlling. Then cruel. How she left with nothing but her daughters and the courage to run. I thought freedom would feel lighter, she whispered, sitting on the edge of her couch. But it's heavy when you're carrying it alone. Ethan sat beside her, careful not to crowd her. You're not alone anymore, he said quietly. Mara turned toward him, tears spilling. Don't say that unless you mean it. Ethan's throat tightened. He thought of his blind date, the empty chair, the silence. And then he thought of Lily and Lucy's laughter filling this apartment. He thought of Mara's strength, even when she was breaking. I mean it, he said. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then Mara leaned forward, resting her forehead against his shoulder. And Ethan realized something powerful. Sometimes life doesn't send you what you want. It sends you what you need. But peace didn't come easily. 2 weeks later, Mara's ex showed up himself. Ethan was there, helping the twins with a puzzle when the knock came, sharp, aggressive. Mara froze. Her face drained of color. I'll get it, Ethan said calmly, though his heart raced. He opened the door to a tall man with cold eyes and a smile that didn't belong on a human face. So, the man drawled. You must be the new protector. Ethan held his ground. Who are you? The man chuckled. You know exactly who I am. Mara stepped forward, voice shaking. Leave. Her ex's gaze flicked to her, then to the twins peeking from behind the couch. I just came to remind you, he said softly, that you can't hide forever. Ethan's fists clenched. You're not welcome here, Ethan said firmly. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. The man's smile widened. Call them. File reports. Pretend you're safe. He leaned closer, voice dropping like poison. You think some stranger can save you? Ethan didn't flinch. I'm not a stranger anymore, he said. Mara inhaled sharply. The man's eyes hardened. This won't end well, he muttered before turning and walking away. When the door shut, Mara's knees nearly buckled. Ethan caught her. I'm sorry, she whispered. I brought danger into your life. Ethan shook his head. No, he said gently. He brought danger. You brought courage. Mara stared at him, tears trembling. You shouldn't have to fight this. Ethan looked at Lily and Lucy watching them, their faces full of fear and trust. He knelt in front of them. Hey, he said softly. Do you know what brave means? Lucy sniffled. Not being scared? No, Ethan said, smiling gently. Brave means being scared, and still doing the right thing. Lily's lip quivered. Are we brave? Ethan's eyes warmed. You two were the bravest girls I've ever met. You ran for help. You saved your mom. The twins hugged him tightly. And in that moment, Ethan understood. Family isn't always who you start with. Sometimes it's who you choose. The following month, Mara's lawyer secured a restraining order. The threats didn't disappear overnight, but they had protection. They had a plan. And for the first time in a long time, Mara smiled without sadness hiding behind it. One evening, Ethan took them back to the café where it all began. The same candlelight. The same tables. Mara looked at him curiously. Why here? Ethan chuckled. Because I think I was supposed to be stood up that night. Mara's brows lifted. If she had shown up, Ethan continued softly, I would have missed the moment Lily and Lucy ran in. The twins giggled. Mara's eyes shimmered. You really believe that? Ethan nodded. I think life has strange timing. It closes one door so you'll notice another opening. Mara reached across the table, taking his hand. Her grip was warm, steady now. Thank you, she whispered. For showing up. Ethan squeezed her hand. Thank you, he replied. For giving me a reason to. Outside, the city moved on like it always did. But inside that café, something beautiful was growing. Not just romance. Not just rescue. But hope. Because sometimes the most inspiring love stories don't begin with perfect dates. They begin with chaos. With crying children. With a stranger deciding not to walk away. And in the end, Ethan learned the strongest message of all. The world can hurt people. It can break them. But kindness. Kindness has the power to put them back together. All it takes is one person willing to show up. And that night, Ethan finally understood. He wasn't stood up. He was led exactly where he was meant to be.